We are going to continue with public key encryption. And so the public key means that at least there is one key which everybody knows. All right. So this was invented by two professors at Stanford, Diffie and Hellman, in 1975. And the idea they came up with is that you have two keys. One is used to encrypt and one is used to decrypt. Separate keys. This is opposite of the secret key. In secret key there is only one key. The same key is used for encryption and the same key is used for decryption. Here two keys. Key 1 will take you from plain text to ciphertext. Key 2 will take you from ciphertext to the plain text. And actually the keys are interchangeable in the sense that you could use key 2 to take it from text to ciphertext, and then key 1 will take you the other way. Two keys. And so the one key is known to the world, posted on your website, and it is called the public key. The other key is just known to you alone, not even to the correspondents. Just to you alone, and that is called the private key. So now everybody should understand the difference between public key, private key, and secret key. Everybody understood the difference? Yeah? Yeah, what is the difference between private and secret as I defined just today? Tell anybody knows that? Yeah, go ahead, you. Go ahead. Okay, so the difference is secret key is at least two people know it. It's secret, but two people know it. And the private key, just one person knows it. Yeah, you had a comment there? Yeah. All right. So this is public and private. And private key alone is no good. You need to have a public key with that. Secret key alone is good enough. All right. So let's see some examples. So one key is private, other is public. So if I want to send, if suppose Bob wants to send to Alice, Bob wants to send a message and he knows Alice's public key. Everybody knows Alice's public key, right? So Bob knows Alice's public key. He encrypts it with Alice's public key. Now this message cannot be decrypted by anybody other than Alice, because nobody has a private key. Okay? Similarly, when Alice responds, she takes the Bob's public key and encrypts it. And this message cannot be opened by anybody because only Bob has the private key. Okay? All right. So let's see an example. A simple example is by a method called RSA. RSA are the initials of the three professors at MIT who came up with this method. And they formed a company called RSA, which made billions. And so, this was really very inventive, right? And RSA is the leading company right now in security business, in network security business. So RSAs are those founders. RSA. Revest, Edelman, I don't know the S, I forgot S for a minute, but yeah? Samir, yeah. Revest, Samir and Edelman, yeah.
Is RSA still used after it got cracked?
RSA what?
Is it still being used?
Oh yeah. RSA is still being used, the answer is yes. Alright, so what did RSA come up with? They said that we need two numbers, and so all the keys will have two numbers, and you take any message, raise it to the power first number and mod it with the second number, and that's your encryption. You want to decrypt, there is a second key where you raise encrypted key to the second number mod by this number, which is actually the same in both keys, and you get the message back. So example is, Suppose the keys are 3 and 187 and 107 and 187. Your message is 5. So encrypted message would be 5 raised to 3 mod 187. 5 raised to 3 is 125, mod 187 is 125. Right? And so this is the ciphertext and this is the plain text. Now the receiver, whoever has this private key, could figure out what the actual number is by doing 125 raised to 107 mod 187. Now try to do this on a calculator. It will overflow. Right? 125 raised to 107 is not easy to do, but it is very trivial to do. How? The way you do it is that you binary expand this one. So this is 64 plus 32 plus 8 plus 2 plus 1. So you calculate 125 raised to 1 mod 187, then you square it to get 125 raised to 2 mod 187, then you square that and square that again to get 125 raised to 8. You square that and square that again to get 125 raised to 32, and I square that again to get 125 raised to 64. So at every step you do the square and mod. That way every time your number is less than 187, nothing will overflow. Okay? And then you multiply all those numbers together and you get 5. Obviously if the number is more than 187, you do mod again. So the good thing about the mod is that you can do before or after. You can do it after squaring, or you can do before, well, you can do it before squaring as well. But basically, so these things are just closed in the mod operations. Okay. So to calculate 125 raised to 107, you calculate 125 raised to 64 mod 187 and so on and so forth. And so here is the modular arithmetic. X times y mod m is x mod m times y mod m whole thing mod m. So when you want to multiply two numbers in mod m arithmetic, you can do the mod first and then the multiplication later. Obviously you could do the multiplication first and the mod later too. X raised to 4 is the same as x raised to 2 times x raised to 2, and both times you do the mod first before doing the multiplication. X raised to ij is same as x raised to I mod m raised to j mod m. Get it? So most of the multiplication operations just work with small numbers. So for example, when you want to calculate 107, the way you calculate 107 is 125 raised to 107 is first 125 raised to 1 is 125, 2 is 104. 125 square is how much? 16,000, but that 15,000, but that number is more than 187. If you want to do it mod 187, that number is 104. Everybody knows how to get 104 out of 15,625, right? Divide by 187, and whatever the remainder is the mod, right? So now if you want to get the 4, you start with 107, square it, and you get 10,000, and you mod it, you get 157. When you want to get 8, you 157 is square, you get 152. Then you want to get 16, you take 152 square, and you get 103. So all these numbers are less than 187. Okay? So finally you got up to 64, then you need these numbers. So you take the proper numbers, multiply them. Again, you don't have to multiply all of them, you could multiply 2 at a time and get them below 187, and you will get a 5 at the end. Now you got to work at your own computer, in your own, basically, I mean by hand actually, not by so much by calculator. Of course you will have a calculator to multiply, but make sure that you do practice this, because this is going to be in the exam. Alright, you should be very proficient in mod arithmetic. Yeah, question.
Sorry, there's 128 specific and 1.5, right?
Where?
On the left, after you raise any power, now it's 128, that's supposed to be 1.5.
125. Yeah, right. These are all 125s. There is no 128 here. Thank you. Okay. Any other? You had a question?
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
Give me a second.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
The base of the mode is always the same in two keys?
Yeah. So the question is whether you always, in the two keys that you have, the second number is always the same. The answer is yes. Yeah.
Okay, so when you broke down 107 to 6432-8,
Yeah.
how did you know? Like, why did you have 6? So what given number that doesn't break down like that?
No, every number breaks down. This is just a binary expansion. I mean, 107, if you write in binary, it will be 1, 1,
You
0.
just leave off the terms that don't apply.
Yeah, 16 doesn't apply, and then 4 doesn't apply. I mean, you take 107 and then you see what is the highest power of 2 you can do, and that is 64. So subtract 64 and then 107 minus 64 is how much? Right? 107 minus 64 and you get 33. 43. Right? Then what is the highest power you can do? 32. Then you get 11. Now what highest power can you cannot do 16 now. Are you listening? You see?
Yeah.
So because this is 11 now, so the only thing you can do is 8. There is no 16.
Right.
Any other question? All right. So now I'm going to teach you how to break the RSA system. However, you cannot break it because your computer cannot do it. You can do it for this example. So the way you break it is that basically first we tell you how to get the keys, and in the exam we will ask you how to break the keys. Okay. So first of all, the method is, which is documented in a paper and everything else, everybody knows the method, this is not a secret, is that you take two large primes. So we took the number 187. That's not really a large prime. A large prime is which is 187 digit long. All right. So you take a number like that, a big number. You take two of those numbers, P and Q, where P is not equal to Q, and then you get N is equal to P times Q. You multiply them together. Then you calculate Z is equal to P minus 1 times Q minus 1. Then you select E such that the least common divisor for Z and E is 1. So there is basically you have to find out E, which is what we call relatively prime to Z, is 1, and then you find D such that D times E is 1. D times E mod Z is 1. I will show you an example that will make it clear. So once you find D and E, then D is your one key, D comma N, and E comma N is the second key. All right, let's do the example that will make it clear as to what we are talking about here. So we take two large primes. One is 11 and one is 17. All right, for our example. So we have two large primes, 11 and 17. We multiply them, we get 187. Right? Then we get Z. Z is P minus 1 times Q minus 1. 16 times 10 is 160. All right. Now we need to get a number E, which is relatively prime to Z. So 160 has factors. 160 is equal to 32, which is 2 raised to 5 times 5. Right? If you take any number which is not one of those two numbers, 2 or 5, that is relatively prime. Right? What are the possibilities? 3 is one possibility. 27. Any power of 3. Yeah, go ahead.
Shouldn't that be greatest common GCD instead of LCD?
GCD, greatest common divisor is 1. Yeah. Let's see, why did I say LCD? LCD is least common multiple, LCM. We don't have divisor, right? We have least common multiple. Alright, so there was greatest common divisor. Alright, so anyway, so we can pick up any of those numbers we mentioned, 3, 7, 11. 11 is not, no, sorry, 3, 7 anyway. So now 7 is, sorry, where were we? Here. So we selected 7 in this example. Alright, because it is not 2 or 5. So 7. So now we need to connect D such that D times E is 1. D times E is 1. D times 7 is equal to 1. That's a difficult one little bit. Okay? And you got to try out little bit, but if you try it out, you will find out that when something is equal to 1, it is either 160 plus 1 or 160 times 2 plus 1 or 160 times 3 plus 1 or 160 times 4 plus 1. Something like that, right? These are all equal to 1. 161 is equal to 1 mod 160. Right? Remember, here taking mod 160, not 187. Don't confuse with that one. We are taking mod Z. So these are all, I am coming to your question. They are all equal to 1. So now which one is a multiple of 7? Lucky us that 161 is divisible by 7 and therefore D is equal to 23. Right? It is quite possible that the first number may not be divisible, but the second may be, or maybe third is, so on and so forth. So we found the first one, and therefore D equal to 23, E equal to 7, and so the two keys are 7 and 23. Come on, not like that. Okay. Question now. Yeah.
Can E be either P or Q as well?
E can be P or Q, like you said, whether 11 or 7. I think it can be, but yeah, it can be. I don't see any reason for that. That is not a condition. The only condition is that the G and E be relatively prime. So let me see. This one I have here. One more thing I noticed is the GCD. GCD. Okay. Yeah. Question.
Which one of them is the private key and what is the public?
It doesn't matter. You can take any one as the private key, any one as the public key. They are just one way against the other.
Like T and Q could be the private key?
No. Hold on. Remember now, what is the key? Key is E comma N and D comma N. P and Q are not the keys. Z is not a key. The keys are E comma N and D comma N. N is P times Q, and this is the D and E. Yeah.
There's several right answers for this, right?
Or there are many keys possible for the same choice. Yeah. So we just took, somebody mentioned 3. If you take E equal to 3, let's see, if E equal to 3, what would be dV? Is there a number here which is divisible by 3? 321. Right? You divide by the 3, you get 107. Right? So that was the key we used in the previous example. 3 comma 187, 107 comma 187. Right? And now you can work out with 11 if you want to, and so on and so forth. Yeah, go ahead, your question.
Yeah, why did you choose 160 plus 1?
Oh, because what we want is D times E must be equal to 1 mod Z.
This one you added 1.
This is a requirement. D times E must be equal to 1 mod Z, or D times E mod Z must be equal to 1. Right? And since z is, so basically would be z plus 1, 2z plus 1, 3z plus 1, 4z plus 1, 5z plus 1, on and on. Okay, so now you can break the RSA. Yeah.
Is that possible if I guess the public key, I guess the private key based on the
Yeah.
message?
Yes, you can, but it will take about 15-20 years on a computer. Because this number is not 187, it is 187 digit long. So what they have done is basically is that the numbers used are so big that on any physical computer or any coordinated internet based computation, you cannot do it within few years. And that's what the security is all about, is that it cannot be computed in a reasonable time. All right, so this is your homework. P is equal to 5, Q is equal to 11. Now you just find the whole thing. Read it carefully. Do you feel comfortable being able to do it? Because there is no homework due. You have to do it on your own, and we won't have time to go over anything, so just see if it looks reasonable to you. Basically, this is the same example that we worked out. Yeah.
If we have questions from now in the exams, what's the best way to ask them?
Well, the best thing is that you come back on the exam day and ask. You know, and the exam day we will have questions before the exam. I will be traveling. I will try to answer the question, but I am traveling, so I don't know. I mean, you know. Okay. But you can ask by email. And another thing is with TA. TA is here. You can just meet him and he can answer the questions. So both Bangzai and Jin Minzi Zhang both can answer the question. All right, so moving on. So user 1, so now if you want to send somebody encrypted message and you want to guarantee that they know it came from you, then you need to do a little bit more than just encrypt for them. Because if the message, like we saw in the previous case, which was sent from Bob to Alice or Alice to Bob, it was not clear that the message came from Bob or not. Right? It was clear that the message will be opened only by Alice, but it doesn't mean that, you know, somebody else could not have sent that message to Alice, right? If you want to have authentication that way, right, then what you do is you do encryption twice. You take the message, you encrypt with, I will encrypt it with my private key, then I will encrypt with your public key and send it to you. Now, once it goes on the net, nobody can read this message. Why not?
No one has corrected.
Because nobody has your private key. So a message reaches you and you can open it, and what will you find? You will find this box inside it. How can you open that box? You have my public key. Right? So that box is opened with my public key. Anybody can open it, but they can't get to that box, actually, it turns out. You got to that box, you can open it easily, you can get the message, and you can be guaranteed that it came from me because nobody else can make that box. Nobody can lock that box.
So
Yeah.
with my private key, I can
Encrypt.
the message, and everyone can verify that I encrypted it.
Yes,
No one else could.
exactly, exactly.
Verify it with the public.
Public key, because public key is public, private key is private, and so you can encrypt with, they are interchangeable. So if you encrypt something with private, it can be decrypted with public. If you encrypt something with public, it can be decrypted with private.
Is this the same algorithm used?
Well, you see, notice this algorithm. This simply says that, you know, both ways it works. Z upon G raised to E mod N. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I meant for the actual encryption. If you encrypt
Yeah.
the
So that was an actual encryption by the way. RSA was actual encryption.
Just the keys, you didn't encrypt them.
No, we did the encrypting. The very first example was encryption example. This was not the key example. In this example, we encrypted 5 to get 125. We decrypted 125 to get 5. Right? And you can do the other way around. You could have just taken a message 5 and encrypted with 107 and then decrypted with 3. So the keys are interchangeable. Alright, so you can get the confidentiality, right? And now you can see other possibilities. Signatures. People can sign the messages. Alright? And so now we can, the lawyers nowadays, they send you documents which you can sign on the PDF. In PDF there is an option to sign your document digitally. That means they calculate the public private key and all that. So how do you get a public key? If you want to get a public key, what you need to do is get a certificate. Actually, let me finish this chapter and I will tell you what the certificate, how to get a key for yourself. But anyway, so this thing is done basically for this lecture. Public key encryption uses two keys, private and public. RSA method is based upon difficulty of factorization. The problem with the reason the RSA works is because even though everybody knows your public key, they cannot factor. So they know 3 and 187, but they cannot factor 187. If you can factor 187, which you can, because 187 is how much? 11 by 17. Right? Once you know those two factors, you can immediately find out the other key. All right? So this is a challenge for you. If you just know the one key, private key, or you know the public key of somebody, and 187 can be factored because the public key has 187 in it. How can you find out the private key? Because if you know P and Q, you can calculate Z. Once you can calculate Z, you can calculate D if given E, or given E to calculate D, whichever. So you can calculate one from. Once you know P and Q. P and Q you cannot find out even though you know P times Q. The second number N is what? P times Q. Right? So that number is such a large number that people cannot factor it, and that's why it is safe. All right, now we can forget everything else here. The review exercises, basically, this is updated slide, so please make sure that you read these sections, these pages, these problems,